Am I wrong for letting my friends surprise propose to each other? I, 24 male, have a group of friends, and there is a couple in the group. We have all been friends since high school and kept in touch through college, so we're all still quite close. Recently, the boyfriend in the couple, 24 male, announced that he was planning to propose to his girlfriend, 25 female. Of course, we were all incredibly supportive and excited as we had watched their relationship grow from the start. However, 2 weeks later, the girlfriend told us she was going to propose to him. When we heard, we discussed, without them present of course, and decided to let them surprise each other as we thought we'd just get a sweet story to tell at the wedding. After a month of planning and nudging the two in the right direction, both decided to propose to the other by the lake at a nearby nature reserve where they shared their first kiss. They had me and another friend watch from a distance to capture photos of the moment the proposal happened. This is where things go wrong. The moment the girlfriend pulled out the ring before the boyfriend could, he went very quiet. My friend and I were watching in anticipation, thinking he was maybe just stunned. Suddenly, he turned bright red and started screaming, full on yelling and shouting. The girlfriend dropped the ring in shock and he snatched it and threw it into the lake. He went on and on about how it was his duty as a man to propose first, and how could she do this to him. He said a few other sexist things that I'm not going to repeat for the sake of my friend. We always knew he was a bit traditional in a sense, as his father is a businessman while his mother is a stay-at-home mom, and he was raised on slightly more old-fashioned values. Man equals a big job and woman equals housewife. But through the whole relationship, he was very respectful and gentlemanly. So you can imagine how shocked all of us were. The boyfriend saw us and screamed at us too, saying we betrayed his trust and that we as men should know that a woman shouldn't be the one to propose. We didn't know what to say and he threw his own ring box to the ground and stormed off. Later that day, my friend and I got publicly called out on social media by him. He called us traitors and he left any group chats and servers we were all in together. My friends are mostly taking our sides, but I'm honestly still shocked and we have been through thick and thin together and never would have imagined this happening. What do you guys think? Am I the asshole? The most disturbing patient I ever treated as a child psychologist is now training to become a surgeon. About 20 years ago, I was working as a child psychologist in a small town and had a 6-year-old patient referred to me for mandatory counseling by the school. Although I only worked with her for a few sessions, and this was years ago, she was probably the child who disturbed me the most to this day. She was originally referred for graphic pictures she drew in class of people being maimed or killed. She did not have exposure to violence or violent media at home, so these were entirely the product of her imagination. She was also somehow involved in an incident where another child was seriously hurt under unclear circumstances, but she could not be concretely tied to what happened. I found out that she had vivid fantasies of cutting living things open and at times had acted out on these fantasies on small animals. She told me freely like she was proud of it. She also tested at a college reading level at 6 years old. There were multiple times where she would say things that even took me a second to follow. That suggested both a quickness and a grasp of double meaning and a nuance that would be considered far beyond what was developmentally expected for her age. The parents were white-collar immigrants in a stable and supportive household, but there was clearly some culture barrier because they kept saying she was good because she was smart and tested high. They didn't seem to understand when I tried to explain that being good academically and being well-behaved or moral were not the same thing. Most disturbingly, I noticed they were intentionally or unintentionally teaching her masking behaviors to conceal these impulses to get what she wanted by manipulating others rather than putting herself at risk, without actually addressing the underlying problem. It becomes very hard to intervene on children who have learned these behaviors because they keep escalating while flying under the radar until they do something they can no longer get away with as older teens or adults and the legal system comes down on them. I strongly recommended both to the parents and the school that they should pursue further and more intensive counseling for their daughter than I could provide. At the time, I had a colleague who was piloting an inpatient program for intervening earlier or younger children with extremely destructive impulses who I gave them the contact for. The parents did not seem open to this at all and abruptly moved away before we had finished our sessions. A couple of years later, I also moved to a new city, but I always wondered what happened to her, fearing she had ended up in juvenile hall or worse, prison. Very recently, I caught up with some old colleagues and learned through happenstance that she was now in training to become a surgeon at an elite East Coast institution. When I found this out, I felt an immediate chill go through me. Someone in that position of trust with that level of intelligence and training has the potential to do a lot of harm, which might not be discovered for years, if ever. Part of me, I am ashamed to admit, even felt that this was a worse outcome. I feel guilty for having these feelings at all because they do not accord with my values or training as a professional. I strongly believe that people are not at fault for their mental health problems or personality disorders. Such people are far more likely to become the victims of crimes than perpetrators, and I certainly do not believe that anyone should be punished or precluded from certain careers because of a perceived predisposition to crime, particularly as a child. I have also had to work hard to undo a lot of the biases that my professors passed on to me in graduate school decades ago that are not based in evidence, such as some people are born psychopaths, a term we no longer use, and are destined to hurt people. I want with every fiber of my being to believe that she received treatment and eventually realized a calling to help people. I want to believe that, but there's a feeling I can't quite escape.
My husband, 33 male, told me that he's no longer attracted to me, 27 female. I'm currently pregnant with twins. I don't know what to do or if there's even anything to do. This is basically my last resort before considering divorce. We've been together for 7 years and married for 3. This is my very first, very planned, very on purpose pregnancy. I've never been with anyone besides my husband. He was my first kiss and everything else. He, on the other hand, not so much. I have a pretty high sex drive and so does he, so going 2 to 5 times a day if we have time is pretty normal for us. After I hit around the 12-week mark of my pregnancy, he stopped initiating sex or responding to my sexual advances. It hurt, but he said that he was stressed out due to things at work, so I stopped making any sexual comments for a few weeks because I didn't want to add any extra pressure to his life. A few weeks passed and I mentioned that this was the longest we've gone without sex, just trying to see where his mind was at, and he said, "Why does it matter? Are you cheating on me?" Which took me for a loop. I don't take cheating accusations lightly and feel like if you say that, you should be ready to stand on it. It's insulting to my character, demeaning, and honestly downright disgusting. I told him that and how it made me feel, and he just got quiet. I told him that I would never cheat. I'm not pathetic enough to do that. He got emotional and said that he was stressed out about money and some petty debts around $5,000. So after we finished up talking, I was thinking of a way to help him be less stressed, so I sent him $7,500 for my savings. I've been working full-time for over 10 and something years at this point and started investing a few years ago, so my savings account is comfortable. I told him that I sent it to him and he asked why, and I said, "The debts." And he said, "What debts?" And I just stared at him like, the ones you just cried in my lap about? He said something like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just so off today," and goes to sit on the couch. The whole thing felt so weird, so I went out and asked him the details about his debts. After 20 minutes of back and forth, he finally admitted that he isn't stressed out about debt and isn't having any money problems. He just isn't attracted to me anymore. I asked him what about me has changed since the last time he was attracted to me, because I'm pretty sensitive about my body image my entire life. However, I have never shared those insecurities with anyone. Not even him. But even with my current body, I honestly don't think I look that bad. So far, I've literally only gained 25 to 30 pounds and I'm still working out and working full time. So now I'm almost mad because I didn't get effing pregnant on my own, and last time I checked, I wasn't the one begging for a kid for the past 2 years. I'm giving him 2 and now he's saying I'm ugly because of my belly. Pregnancy hormones and whatnot, I started crying a little, but wiping them away as fast as I could because I was more mad than sad. He said it's not me, it's the pregnancy. And he's concerned about the long-term effects to my body after seeing videos of postpartum bodies and C-section scars. Then told me it wasn't fair that I was upset because he's having a natural male reaction and I'm manipulating his feelings. He's never said anything like this before either. I asked him to explain what a natural male reaction is, and he said what makes a guy hard and what makes a guy not hard. I asked him to go stay with a friend for a night or 2 so I can have some space, and he's staying at his sister's, who called me and asked what happened because we never really fight. I don't know what to do, really. I'm exhausted from everything already, and this on top of it is just making me feel even worse. I've been crying all day and I don't have anyone to really talk to this about, so any advice would be very helpful. Part 2. My husband told me that he's no longer attracted to me and I'm pregnant with twins. He's back home now because his sister kicked him out, and after I told her what he said, she said she didn't want him in her house around her sons. We talked yesterday so I could get a better idea of what he's experiencing, and he said he has zero sexual libido towards me, but other women do excite it occasionally, but not through porn either. I'm guessing he meant random women and acquaintances he sees. He said he's not cheating and has no plans to, but he can't promise a good sex life if he isn't attracted to me. I told him that the sex isn't my concern right now, but if he loves me. He said he does and always will, but right now he only sees me as a mom and not a wife or a lover. He sees me the same way as he sees his mom, and trying to initiate grosses him out. I asked if it was just because of him being scared of hurting the babies, and he basically made a crude joke to let me know that that wasn't what he was worried about. It's just my body that turns him off. He said as long as I stay in shape, it shouldn't be a problem long term, but he's still worried about scarring and stretching. He didn't even feel bad, and he felt like I overreacted by asking him to leave for a few days. I told him how cruel it was to say to someone who's in the weakest point of their lives, and he said I was fine, I'm still working. Yeah, I don't have a choice but to. My career will be ruined otherwise. I'm thinking I'm going to just stay with him for the rest of my trimester because honestly, I need help, and once I'm closer to giving birth, I'll have to start considering divorce. He's upset because I've already moved my things into another room in the house, and I've already started separating our finances. He thinks this is something that can be worked through and wants us to go to marriage counseling. Considering how many times he poked fun at me for going to therapy before, I don't buy it. I don't have the energy to entertain it either. I'm just really disappointed at myself and my choices right now, and knowing I'll be experiencing my first times as a mom alone. And everything is about to be 10 times harder than I thought it would be. When I brought up a divorce, he didn't take it seriously at all, but I can't be with someone who's made me feel this low and disrespected. I'm 34 and my brother 29 got married a few years ago to literally the sweetest woman 28 in the world. A year or so ago, she was in a car accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. She's never been quite the same. Her voice is always shaky and she stutters a lot. She can be a bit slow to process things. She needed to relearn basic tasks. Just issues like that. Well, they were over at Thanksgiving and it must have been a particularly hard day for her, maybe because she was overwhelmed or something and it was difficult talking to her. Like I asked her if she wanted something to drink and she stared at me for a moment, and it wasn't until my brother came and crouched down and asked her what she wanted to drink that she answered. She wanted apple juice. We didn't have any apple juice, so my brother walked all the way down to the gas station to get her a bottle instead of just saying no, have water. My brother dished out her plate, and when dinner was over, she volunteered to do the dishes and my brother helped too. The rest of the family went to chat in the living room, and when I came to refill my glass of wine, I watched while they laughed and danced and acted like they used to. He seemed so happy doing that and less happy when he had to help her. It's just hard having to wait on her. Like we were playing some board games and she wanted to play too, and so my brother had to sit there and help explain things to her. Her turns took like 10 times as long as anyone else's. When they were leaving, I was talking to my brother and I asked if he thought about getting a divorce at all, and he instantly answered no and was insulted that I had asked. He's a young, good-looking guy with a good job. My sister-in-law can't do anything and she's essentially a child that he has to look after. He adjusts his work schedule to take her to her speech, occupational, physical, and regular therapy. Then he's essentially a nurse with all the work he does with her prescriptions. Aside from that, she's not working and can't do much around the house. She cleans, watches the news, and helps make desserts for funerals at her church. He even got her a dog to help keep her active. He claims she's getting better and she seems to, but she'll never be the person she was before. Am I the asshole for asking my brother to consider divorcing his wife?